With Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers being eliminated from the playoffs and Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks being sent home in the first round of the play-in position, there is a lot of speculation growing around those two key players and the Miami Heat organization. And we have three mock trades to break down on this episode of Heat Digest, as well as breaking down all the other surrounding news about this topic. And we're going to do it right now. And I think this is the craziest idea of the entire offseason. I'm not specifically just speaking of the Miami Heat. I think for really all the teams in the NBA, I think this might be one of the craziest ideas that we'll see circulating around the league, as these are three really big name players. Now, 2 days ago, Heat Nation posted this article written by David Ackerman. It goes on to say why the Miami Heat need to go all in for Donovan Mitchell or Trae Young. Now, Legion of Hoops also posted this on Twitter, as well as a few other platforms on Twitter, or a few other accounts, I should say, on Twitter. And this article opens with, in order to have any real shot of contending for a title anytime soon, the Heat need to go all in for Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell. Now, we've been in connections to both of these players before. Trae Young, not so much as Donovan Mitchell, but again, just even this year during the regular season before the NBA trade deadline, his name was in speculation to be traded. LA was a big team that possibly was in contention. The Miami Heat were also mentioned as well, as we covered that on Heat Digest. But then Donovan Mitchell, we all know the story. We have heard his name so many times when it comes to the Miami Heat organization and whether or not he'll be the next player for the Miami Heat, the next big name all-star level player for the Miami Heat. Now, obviously, we have a lot of comparisons to Dwayne Wade and whether or not he could be the next Dwayne Wade in the Miami Heat uniform. But again, we have to get him here before any of that even happens. And it goes on to say, NBA executives reportedly expect this summer to be, and I quote, active, end of quote, as high-spending teams, and I quote, grapple with restrictions under the new collective bargaining agreement, end of quote. The Heat have to get in on the action and shake up the roster a bit. Goes on to finally say Butler and Bam Adebayo should be the only untouchables, and everyone else should be on the table in an attempt to acquire Young or Mitchell. Now, before we get to anything else written in this article, I want to quickly mention, and I would love to hear comments down below what you guys think about this. I think Butler and Bam both are untouchable. I want to add one more to that group, and that is Jaime Jaquez Jr. I know he didn't win the Rookie of the Year. I know he wasn't clearly the best Rookie of the Year, as no one was better than Wembanyama. And if you think otherwise, you're being biased. Like, that kid is going to be a generational talent. Jaquez is going to be good. I think he can be an all-star, and I genuinely think that. Think about his game. He has such a mature game. His footwork is impeccable, especially for someone who's a rookie going into his sophomore year. What we had to see this past season in his rookie year, he was really good. And when he had that stretch of games before he went down with the groin injury the second time, he was playing elite level basketball. It was in a time when we needed him to step up. And as a rookie, he went on a stretch of games where he was really good. Obviously, he got injured. He came back. He was not really that same level player, but again, we had so many pieces moving around in that lineup. He never really found his stride again. At least that's what I believe. But again, his weakest point of his game, if you really want to have this argument, I believe would be his three-point shot. He didn't shoot it all that well. When he was on, obviously it was going in, but he was more streaky than anything. When he's surrounded by players with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, people that can really shoot the three, even Jovic, who was a great option in a stretch four. I think he's right on the cusp of being considered untouchable. But again, if one of these names are in contention to be traded for, we're going to have to give up one of these guys. I would vote to keep Jaime Jaquez Jr. Let me know down below what you guys think about that, and if there's anyone else you guys would just not take anyone for. But again, this article by David Ackerman goes on and says many NBA scouts reportedly believe the Atlanta Hawks will trade Young this summer if they can find a buyer, and it appears as though the squad might prefer to get rid of him instead of DeJounte Murray. With Atlanta getting the number one overall pick in the 2024 draft, it might even be more inclined to trade Young. Now, big question here. This is the biggest question out of the entire conversation. It really is. Now, it's big. It might even be bigger than whether or not Donovan Mitchell wants to go back to Cleveland, or what he may want to do, or what Cleveland wants to do with Donovan Mitchell. If Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, because we've heard Trae Young is on the record that when they first got eliminated after the play-in game, he said he loved playing in Atlanta, but he wants to win. He wants to win right now, and he wants to win a lot. And he doesn't think it's going to happen in Atlanta. I'm paraphrasing, but again, he wants to win was the message from him, and again, he does love Atlanta, but he doesn't know if it's going to work in Atlanta to win this fast. So if he were to be traded, and the Atlanta Hawks again are at a crossroads, I think we have two massive crossroads going on with the Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have two guards on both teams that are basically all-stars, if not borderline level all-stars, for the Eastern Conference, and it's just whether or not it's going to work. What have we seen based off the time they've had together, or do they want to continue to do that? And if not, are we going to move either of these players, if not one, if not both? You know what I mean? This is just the conversation that they have to have. Now, if that was the case, and we ended up having to go get someone who's the better player, Mitchell's the better player because of the defense. Trae Young can be a liability on the defensive end. He's not the biggest person in the world. He's 6'1", 164. He's not the biggest human being. Again, he can be a defensive liability. His offensive capabilities are otherworldly. He's a great offensive threat. He can shoot the ball from basically half court. He has limitless range, and he has the ability to get in the lane and make floaters, so he's not one-dimensional. And obviously his facilitating is ridiculous, as he averaged, I believe, a league high in 10.7 assists this year. Absolutely just flat out ridiculous. He is a great talent offensively, but again, defensively, we know where you're not getting an all-star level defender in Trae Young. You're not getting an all-defensive player in Trae Young. But in Spider-Man, in Donovan Mitchell, in Spida, he is a great two-way player. He can score the ball. He can score 28 to 30 points a game if he needed to, if depending on the offense that he was in. Obviously, coming to Miami, he most likely would not be required to score 28 to 30 points in a game. But again, more than capable to do it. But then on the defensive end, not only is he able, but he's willing and capable of taking any defensive matchup in front of him. His ability at 6'6" at shooting guard, he can guard the 1, he can guard the 2, he can guard the 3. He's a great perimeter defender. He's a freak athlete. He's an all-star level player. And if we had to pick one, I agree with David Ackerman, who goes on to say Mitchell's the better player and fit in Miami, but Young would probably cost less. I think teams should always go for it all, no matter the cost, which makes me choose Mitchell. So I'm in full agreement with David Ackerman in this sense. He did go on to add two mock trades here. So the first one we're going to break down is for Trae Young. So the Miami Heat would then be landing Trae Young. The Atlanta Hawks would be getting Trae Jones, Nikola Jovic, 2024 first-round pick, and a 2025 first-round pick. Top 3 protected. That would be from the Spurs. So the Spurs would be losing 2 assets to Atlanta. The Heat would be losing 2 assets, one of them being a very young player in Jovic, who has so much upside going to Atlanta. For the Spurs, the Miami Heat would be then sending Tyler Hero to the San Antonio Spurs. A massive move for the Miami Heat, someone I have called for to be traded, someone to be moved at least, to cut the ties with the Miami Heat. And then finally losing Duncan Robinson to the Utah Jazz, as well as a 2030 first-round pick, which is lottery protected. This is interesting. This is a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of pieces moved for the Miami Heat. A young piece in Jovic, 3 draft picks. It's a lot. It really, really is a lot going on for the Miami Heat here. Not really sure. It'd be 2 draft picks. But again, not really sure if I love this trade for the Miami Heat. Getting rid of Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, Jovic, and 2 picks, as well as only getting one thing back in return in Trae Young. Yes, the offensive production would be otherworldly from Trae Young, but again, what happens on the defensive side of the ball? What do we do with Rozier and then Trae Young? Do we have to make another move to then move Rozier for some subtle piece, or what? What do we do with the second guard? Do we move him down to the shooting guard? Well, then what do we do? Now we're running a small lineup with 2 defensive liabilities. Not a big fan of that as well. Now, if we go on to the second mock trade presented by David Ackerman in that article, the Miami Heat would be landing Donovan Mitchell and Dorian Finney-Smith from the Brooklyn Nets. And then obviously Mitchell from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then the Cleveland Cavaliers would be getting Ben Simmons from the Brooklyn Nets. We then getting Jaime Jaquez Jr. from the Miami Heat, Nikola Jovic from the Miami Heat, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2028 first-round pick, lottery protected from the Brooklyn Nets, and a 2030 first-round pick from the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat giving up 4 very, very extremely valuable assets to the Cleveland Cavaliers, as well as also landing Ben Simmons and another first-round pick, which would be a lottery pick protected. So then we go to the Spurs, who would be landing Duncan Robinson in a 2025 second-round pick. And finally, the Brooklyn Nets getting Tyler Hero from the Miami Heat. Now, this is why, and when I started this video, I said it's the craziest idea of the entire offseason. These trades are absolutely insane, and we have one more, actually, as the last one is from Legion Hoops, and they say, who says no? Heat received Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and then the Hawks received Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez Jr., a 2024, our first-round pick in 2024, which would be the 15th overall pick, and a future first-round pick. Well, I'll tell you right now, hell no. Hell no. Absolutely not. I would not do this. Not a chance. Would not. No way. I don't know. Please let me know down below what you guys think about it. I absolutely no shot. I would make this trade. The one presented by Legion Hoops. I would also not make this trade for Trae Young, presented by David Ackerman in the article that we really read through today from the Heat Nation. And again, this one is the only one I would even consider. But again, I don't know if I would even pull the trigger on this one, giving up Jaquez, Jovic, and all the draft picks that we have, as well as Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Again, you guys know I want to move Mr. Hero, but not at that cost. But again, that'll be it for this episode of Heat Digest. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching.